Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Jimmy's JamBox. We're here. We're back at it again, and we're going to get on into it. But before we do, as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. With that being said, here's a quick word from our sponsor. Organic herbs and botanicals, skincare and edibles, wellness for body and mind. The Brothers Apothecary. Fine teas and remedies. All right, thank you all so much for watching. Again, shout out The Brothers Apothecary. Make sure to click the link below and go check them out. Guarantee you're going to like it. Make sure to use code JamBox for 20% off and a free gift. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get on into it. Here is today's guest.
Hello, it's Archie Trillfiger.
Hello. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, Jimmy.
Yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about, who you are, where you're from, what you do. Give us that Tinder profile of your involvement with music.
Yeah, of course. Well, my name's Archie Trillfiger. I'm from Southeast Portland. I'm 30 years old. I've been making hip hop music for about 15 years. And most of the work that we do is located in Portland, Oregon.
Oh, yeah. And what got you started in music initially?
Well, I've been listening to music since I was very young. Mm-hmm. I discovered hip hop when I was 8 years old. And my journey from that till I was 15 in high school, I ran into somebody in high school that we went to different middle schools, but he was already recording and making music and posting videos on YouTube.
Oh, damn.
And this is back in 2009. So, it's early YouTube days. And it just intrigued me. And I always wondered and was curious about how music was created in all these videos. So I saw him in school, went up to him. I told him, hey, I'm trying to do what you're doing. He invited me to his house that day. And that day I recorded, wrote, and rapped my first song ever.
Oh, damn. That's awesome. Do you still have it?
Actually, I don't know if I still have it, but I used to release all my music in thatpiff.com.
Okay.
So in the blog era days.
That's a throwback right there.
Yes, definitely. And I believe all my music from the past is still on thatpiff.com if that website is still up and running.
Okay. Hell yeah. Well, y'all have to go check it out. And if it is, link in the comments.
Yeah. Yep.
Was anybody in your household musical at all, or are you like the first generation?
As far as my immediate family, I think I'm the first one to make music. My parents have always listened to music every single day. Especially my mom when she would clean the house and things like that. But as far as them making music, no, they never made any kind of music. But I do have cousins that are into regional Mexican music bands. Some of them play accordion, guitar, trumpets, and all kinds of other things. But I believe I'm the first one in the family that makes hip hop music.
Oh yeah, accordion is hard.
Yes.
Respect to anybody who can play that competently. That is not a simple instrument.
No, yeah, it definitely looks difficult. You got to have some type of talent and definitely love for the instrument.
Very much so. Very much so. And some of them are expensive.
Oh,
big.
I bet. They look fancy. They look nice. I never look into prices because I never really, learn how to play any type of instrument. But it's definitely intriguing and it's definitely an art form.
Very much so. And then what was some of the earliest music you remember hearing growing up?
Is old school and regional Mexican music. So my dad listened to a lot of bands you might not be familiar with, but all my Hispanic community probably is, like Los Tucanes de Tijuana, Los Tigres del Norte, Vicente Fernández, Juan Gabriel, and things like that. And my mom listened to more like romantic, old ballad type of music and stuff like that, like Temerarios, Grupo Primavera, Los Bookies, and things of that nature. Those are my earliest memories of any type of music being played around me.
Oh yeah, no, I love that.
Yes.
And then we have a couple questions we check in with everybody on just for continuity. And this first one is one we ask early, it's one we ask often, and it's definitely a crowd favorite. What was the first album you ever bought with your own money?
Oh, I remember this vividly. In middle school, in the summers, I would go and work for somebody who had their own landscaping company. So I got paid under the table, obviously, but I was making my own money. And I was about 12, 13 years old. And I went to Best Buy and I bought it's a Kanye West album, Graduation.
Okay.
Yes, it was the Graduation album. Yes, definitely.
Damn, good album.
Definitely. It came with a poster. It had that cardboard box instead of like the actual plastic, so you could open it and it could stand up. I still have it to this day.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes, definitely.
That was a really influential album for its time too.
Oh, definitely.
Like,
Kanye West was, it.
Yeah.
It was him.
Yeah,
definitely.
And his music is like, regardless of the stances on him now, his music through time evolved the way time evolved with music.
Definitely.
And so that's like having that, especially when it was prominent at the time, was probably a really powerful experience.
He never got left behind as times were evolving. And if anything, he created a lot of the things for the music to evolve.
Very influential.
Yes,
very
definitely.
influential.
But those days, he was something else. For
yeah,
sure. Yeah. It had like songs like "Wouldn't Get Far" with the game in there. It had songs like "Gold Digger," if I'm not mistaken, and a bunch of other hits and stuff like that. "Can't Tell Me Nothing." That was a very good record. Yes, I remember those times vividly.
Hell yeah! Well, that's definitely a solid first choice.
Yes.
And then, what was one of the first live shows you ever went to? That was like one you wanted to go to. So you saw it was happening, you got tickets, and you went to it.
Yes. This was actually later on in my life, in my early 20s, at the amphitheater here up north from here. Wiz Khalifa was on tour, the High Road Tour, and he brought Snoop Dogg, French Montana, DJ Drama, Casey Veggies, and if I'm not mistaken, that's when DJ Drama was first trying to promote Jack Harlow. And I saw Jack Harlow open up for everybody.
Oh, damn.
Nobody even knew who Jack Harlow was.
Yeah.
We just saw some, white kid with curly hair rapping up there, tall ass shit, just, doing his thing. And a couple years after that, he's Jack Harlow,
Yep.
Yeah, so I still have that memory vivid in my brain. Yeah, but it was a very good concert.
I could imagine.
Yes.
With a lineup like that, and even such a good, like, unknown opener for the time.
Definitely.
Like, that was probably an experience for
yes,
sure.
it was. It definitely was.
Hell yeah. And then before we get into the middle portion where we talk more about what you're doing now, do you have a defining moment where you decided you wanted to take music more seriously?
Yes. So like I said, I've been making music since I was 15 and I'm 30 years old now. So
literally half your life as of now.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yes. It's been 15 years in the making. The whole time that I've made music, I thought in my mind, I thought I was taking it serious. But the moment I think I really took it serious 100% was just the beginning or the end of 2022. Before that, I've tried many things to, as they say, go viral or try to get some traction and a fan base in the internet. But at the end of 2022, my brother came to me and he just came to me and said, well, you've been doing this for a long time now. I'm starting to make music as well. So I think we should create a plan and attack this like a business. And I'm like, well, I think that's exactly what we should do. So just like you told me earlier, we wrote a 5-year plan and it started in 2023. 2023 got executed properly. But since then is when we decided to take it 100% serious.
Hell yeah.
Because before I didn't have the support, I think, or things wouldn't line up, and it just came naturally, really.
Hell yeah.
At that point. Yeah.
No, it's cool that you're able to acknowledge like a point in time where you're like, all right, this is where we need to start making different kind of moves, taking it more seriously. Because I mean, like, it is art, like, at the end of the day, and it should be treated as an art with like the room to breathe in creativity. But that doesn't mean you can't move without intent. You know what I mean? Like, you can still have like goals to be working towards that motivate you to move with your music.
Yes.
So it's not so much about like releasing a song every week as it is like, I want to have like a collection of work. I want to like achieve this in the year, and based off of these achievements, this is what next year looks like.
Correct. What's your purpose and what's your goal out of this?
Exactly. And I mean, I think even short-term plans go a long way towards like, a 5-year plan and a 10-year plan.
Baby steps lead to big steps.
Exactly. But that's solid. I appreciate that thought process for sure.
Thank you.
But now let's go ahead and let's get on into you in the present day.
Of course.
And we're going to get a super easy one out of the way.
Okay.
How'd you pick the name?
So when I started making music when I was 15 years old, I went by a completely different name.
Ooh, what was it?
It was Maniac. I went by
Okay.
Maniac, and that only lasted a few years, and then I thought it was too simple. Since I was young, I always thought about branding and like when someone would Google you, like what's gonna pop up.
Yeah, good old SEO.
Correct. If you type in Maniac, well, probably the word's going to come up with the dictionary definition. So after that, I decided to add Escobar. So it went from Maniac to Maniac Escobar. And that's when I started releasing all my music on that Piff, how I mentioned earlier in the interview. But when I turned 21 or 22, I kind of saw that name a little bit maybe childish or just young or just a little too much.
Yeah.
So I had to go with something that was more defining to myself and who I really am. So I decided to go by Archie Trillfiger. Archie derives from my government name, from my full name. It's a Greek name, Archimedes. So that's my actual name. In Spanish, it's Archimedes. That's how we pronounce it. Or in English accent, Archimedes. But that's where Archie derives from. And somebody in high school just started calling me Archie because they couldn't pronounce my name.
Fair.
So Archie stuck with me since high school. But I never used it as an artist name. But then I thought Archie wasn't enough. And in those times, for years, I wore nothing but Tommy Hilfiger. Everybody knew me as the guy with Tommy Hilfiger on.
Okay.
Right away, they knew, Tommy Hilfiger, that's the stuff that Archie wears. That's the stuff that Archie wears. So it became some type of like branding thing with my personality to a certain extent. And since I can remember, since I've been listening to hip hop, I've been very influenced by the Texas movement of hip hop. And over there, the word trill is used a lot, which, if I'm not mistaken, is a word created by true and real. So I just did trill and Trillfiger. And I'm like, oh, that's a dope word. I smoke weed every day, so I think that I was just, being creative in my mind or something like that. I don't know. It just came to my mind randomly. I said Archie Trillfiger. That's what it is. That's what I'm going by. And since 2016, I've been going by Archie Trillfiger to this present day.
Oh yeah. Well, it seems like you've put quite a bit of thought into it.
Yes.
And I appreciate all the intent behind it. Like, it's cool that it's attached to stuff from your past. It's still very much like a part of your name, but still also a part of your identity.
Correct.
Now, do you still wear Tommy Hilfiger?
Actually, rarely, like briefs, maybe a shirt. But no, I really don't wear Tommy Hilfiger like that anymore.
Damn, you gotta get somebody who does like cool, like what is it when they like
custom?
Like, yeah, like, how like people will like upcycle, I think is the word, like when they'll take something and they'll take it apart and they'll rebuild it.
Correct.
You should have that done with like their clothes and like streetwear.
That'd be pretty
and like
cool.
Find like a local person in the area that can like hybrid both of them and have your really own line.
I still do have all my old Tommy Hilfiger clothes in the wardrobe, as a collection, if you would.
Yeah.
So you just gave me a great idea, and that would be an artistic move for outfits for photo shoots, music videos, and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and
we're gonna have to give you credit for that. If it happens,
please, if you make it, I call dibs on a shirt.
Oh, definitely, you'll get a shirt for sure.
Just get them to like embroider a T over the H.
Ooh,
so don't even like change the branding entirely. Just have them like sew it over.
Yes,
and just like make it oversized. Oh,
that's very.
We'll save that for off camera. But
yes,
this is actually a fun idea. I think.
Yes, it is a fun idea. That's something that can come to life.
Hell yeah. But let's go ahead and get back into it. And let's talk about your writing style.
Yes.
And we're going to break it up into chunks, but we're going to start right at the beginning.
Yes.
So when you get inspired, you're ready to make music.
Yes.
What are some of the things you do to get a track started?
To me, everything is the vibe and the energy around. As I drive or as I live my life, I get inspired. And I kind of store those feelings and thoughts in my head. And usually towards the end of the day, to unwind, I go and sit in a quiet, dark place and put my headphones on and play some beats and spark up a joint. And that's when just things start flowing. And that's how I start writing a song every single time I believe. Yeah.
I dig that.
Yeah.
So you're mainly pen to paper, not like freestyle?
I don't freestyle at all.
Okay.
I think freestyling is great. But it's not for me.
Fair. I mean, I say it on the show all the time. Pen to paper is Yeah, like there are people who are nasty with the pen. Like
Correct.
there's nothing wrong with it whatsoever. Freestyling is its own art,
Yes.
but it's not the only approach.
Correct. And then, every song has a certain message and a purpose, and every word counts. And I do not want to waste that space. And also, some songs are made to perform, and controlling your breath is it's
important.
It's very important. And I write my music in that style, so I know I can control my breathing while I'm performing, and I can still perform every single word, every single lyric.
Yeah.
I don't like to put the mic down and try to catch my breath while there's a lyric happening at that moment.
Yeah.
I like to say every single last word that's in every song when I perform.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, always write. I always write.
I dig that. And then how long does it usually take you to get comfortable performing a track? Like how long does it take you from when you finished writing it to where you're able to perform it fully?
Nowadays, I want to say a week. At the very most. So we just recently released an EP called Slump Boys EP. And we recorded it a week prior to a show we had a previous Friday, a week ago, and we recorded it specifically to perform it.
Okay.
Show.
So you would have it ready when you were like, hey, the tracks are performed.
Correct. Yeah. So literally we recorded it a weekend, practiced it all week, and that Friday we performed it.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Which is a collab EP between me and my brother Archie Trillfiger. Yes.
Hell yeah. And actually I was checking it out before. It's definitely solid. I really dig the sound.
Thank you.
I mean, you have a ton of music. Like it goes back to like 2016 on Spotify.
Correct.
Like you've been putting in the work on there since the beginning. And I mean, you've got a grip of singles, you got a handful of EPs, and you've even got a couple of albums.
Yes, that is correct.
Like going through your music, it's clear that you've had like a vision of your sound from the beginning. Like you have a style.
Thank you.
And while it's grown like quality wise and over time, like from just like solidifying it, you have definitely locked in on your niche. And it's very like West Coast vibe with like a Latin twinge.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I think you described that just the correct way, because at the end of the day, this is the West Coast. It's the Northwest, but it's still the West Coast. And that Latin flavor, it just comes from my background and my culture.
Very much so. And I mean, you have a couple tracks that are in Spanish. Like,
100%.
That's really cool. Like I appreciate that. And I mean, as I was checking out your sound, I do this bit where I like pick out a track.
Yeah.
And it was hard. It was actually like, it was hard because like you are so dialed like with your sound that like,
thank you.
There aren't like a lot that are like better or worse than the others. You know what I mean? You've really got that. But I had to land on one.
Yes.
And I landed on Hard Times.
Ooh, yes.
The Latana album.
Yes.
And it first of all, the horns were a vibe. Like that just sits with me real well.
Yeah, it's very bluish, jazzy feeling.
Yeah. And you and your brother were just like sliding all over the place on it. Like it felt not loose, but it felt very like swung. You kind of gave some give to where your flow is usually like super dialed and tight.
Correct.
And so it kind of had that like kind of not, like I said, not loose feeling, but it just had a little bit of, and it was a great way to end the album.
We did let loose a little bit on that one.
Yeah.
Sure, yes. And I thank you for saying that, because I do agree with you. That's why we chose it to be the last one on the album. I thought it was a great closing record, and a little bit more about my story. I get deep in those lyrics a little bit too as well. So I appreciate that feedback. Thank you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm curious to know though, what is one of your favorite tracks to perform?
My favorite track to probably perform, I want to say, is From the O. It's probably one of my most popular records, and it just describes kind of who I am outside of being, my personal life. It just describes who I am when I'm having fun, and who I am when I'm focused on my music and my dreams and stuff like that. I think so. And everybody that is around me and has been to my shows knows that song, and they love that song. It's usually my main song to perform.
Oh yeah, no, I love that when when there's that crowd knows it track.
Yes.
Like you can always tell, like, I mean, obviously from the response you can tell, but like there's just something about performing a track that people know the words to that you're just like, it just feels different.
It motivates you.
Yeah. And it makes like the energy in the room a little more alive, especially for people who haven't seen you before.
Yes.
Like to hear a group of people respond, like saying your music while you're performing it, they're like, oh, well, this must be somebody. Like
curiosity.
Yeah. Like it's a memorable moment for an observer as well as for like people who have seen you before. They're like, this is the moment where we get to sing along.
And they remember that energy and that vibe that we're feeling at that moment as well.
Hell yeah. And then I guess let's talk about a little bit of your newer music, stuff that hasn't come out.
Yes.
And I kind of want to like, so just think of stuff that's, in the works at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
How would you describe the characteristics of your new sounds? Like what's different, or what you're locking in on? Like what can we expect from music that's going to be coming out?
Yes. There's actually 2 projects that are going to come out this year. One is a collab album between me, Spencer Boston, and Damie from the Hustle Heads. We've been working on this for a while, and it's a very like go-getter type of sound, like get to the bag, put in the work, motivation and inspiration, but still with a bit of that West Coast feel that you mentioned earlier about my sound. But the project that I'm gonna close off the year with is gonna be a more, I like to call it digital sound. A little more robotic, kind of like I'm playing PlayStation vibes, kind of trappish as well too. I don't think it's gonna have that West Coast feel. Maybe in my flow and in my lyrics it will, but in the beat selection it's gonna be more trap style.
Interesting.
But more digital as well, like computerized sounds, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I dig that. Also, shout out Spencer Boston before I forget to say.
Oh yeah, shout out Spencer Boston, AMG.
Hell yeah. When you say more digital, like, are you going to like try and like, are you going to do processing on your vocals to match that? Or is it more just like the beat selection?
It's more just in the beat selection.
Okay.
Yes. I only have, if I'm not mistaken, one song with a bit of auto-tune in it. It's not that much, but I've never been a fan of auto-tune in my voice.
That's fair. I can't imagine your style with it, to be honest.
That is correct.
I don't feel like you like have that presentation to like activate it the right way.
I agree.
Yeah,
I
like,
agree.
You have a lot more like definition in your words, and like the way that you present your stuff is a bit more like staccato.
Yeah.
And I think that just auto-tune wouldn't accent that in the most fun way.
No, not at all. I don't think so. I don't think it's for me at all whatsoever. But on the digital sound, it's more on the sounds. Like I said, the drum style of the project is going to be trap style.
Okay.
But the background sounds and all the actual synths and harmonies and stuff like that, it's going to be very, very digital, like we're in a computer world, if that makes sense.
I dig that, yeah. Do you have like a specific producer you're working for that, or you just have like a bunch of different?
No, actually, this project has been in the vault for a long, long time, a lot of years.
Okay.
Just for one reason or another, I just been putting it off to the side. Most of the songs, I want to say 80% of it, I've been having it written for several years, and it still relates to who I am and to my life till this day. Because it's something relatable. I don't think it's something I wrote not to fit the moment, but to fit in longevity just in general. And but I'm almost done writing it. I'm about to start focusing on it here pretty soon, because we're almost done with the previous project that I told you about with Spencer and Damie. And all the beats, those beats, I actually got them from I bought leases from producers from YouTube and stuff like that.
Oh, hell yeah.
But all these beats, I've been having them also for years. I want to say for about 7 years.
Oh damn.
Yes.
It's cool that you can. It's cool that you can have like them still like be relevant, because I feel like that's the hardest part when you sit on something for too long.
Yes.
Especially in the realm of like rap and hip hop, where it is so heavily lyric based.
Yes.
Like it's easy to be like, man, I'm just not that person anymore. Like I can't attach myself to these feelings anymore, and then the moment is lost, so to speak.
I don't like to sound maybe egotistic or arrogant, but I think I'm my biggest fan. And I enjoy listening to my music.
Yeah.
I still go back and listen to all my old stuff from 2016 and 2017. There's times I get a bit nostalgic and I go and dig in the vault and listen to my stuff from that piff, like I told you, when I went by a totally different artist name. And I feel like, it's part of my life, every single lyric that I record and write and release in this music. And I don't think it's ever going to get old, at least for me, because at the end of the day, I'm just speaking my life into existence into these beats, really.
Oh yeah. No, I dig that. I mean, my music is a little more obscure as far as being like out there goes, but every now and then I take the trip down memory lane. I'm just like, oh, I remember why this is a pop. Yeah.
And it gives you that feeling of those times as well. I'm like, man, I remember recording this. I remember, what friends were around, who was around, what was I doing at the time.
Yeah, what the studio space looked like.
Everything. Yeah. Yes, the vibes. I even remember the strain of weed I was smoking and like all that type of stuff.
Oh yeah, no, I dig that for sure. I don't get to tell this a lot, but one of the first albums I ever recorded for somebody else, we recorded with like barely anything. It was like an SM57 and like the crappiest mixer and interface you could find. And it was like all stock plugins and Logic. Yes. We made a booth out of a twin bed. Like, really just like it was a process.
But, the will of wanting to do it got your creative process going, and you make it happen one way or another. You have to work with what you got. I started putting my microphone. I would push up my clothes in my closet and put my microphone in there. And I started hacking DAWs like Unedited Pro and not a Minecraft. What was that called? It was some green program.
Was it Mixcraft?
Mixcraft.
Yeah.
It was Mixcraft. Yep. Yes, Mixcraft and all those type of programs. And we had to start somehow.
Yeah. Man, I started with when my band and I first tried to get like demos of our recordings so we could like write stuff at home.
Yeah.
We used Audacity.
I remember Audacity.
God, it was we could only record in mono.
Yes.
That was just what a nightmare.
Yeah. I never got into it for that same reason.
No, it was tough. We were just like, we had like an 1/8" microphone to like it was a handheld mic with like an 1/8" plug on the end.
That's crazy.
And so we would just like put it in the room with whoever was playing, and we're like, here's headphones, figure it out.
Yeah, pretty much.
It was bad. Yeah. It was real bad. Like we don't have those recordings, and for good reason. Those are meant to stay. Those are meant to stay far.
That's funny.
Yeah, but no, I could definitely dig that.
Yeah.
But now let's take a moment and let's step back. So we dived all the way into music that you haven't even put out yet.
Oh yeah.
But let's look at music as a whole.
Of course.
What are some of the things about current music that you enjoy?
As in my music, or just
music as a whole? Yeah.
I just like how things are evolving. Almost every single kind of race in this world has an artist, a hip hop artist or a rap artist, and everybody's just telling their story. And I think the power that the internet has given us to expose ourselves and what we want to expose of ourselves out there is obviously a double-edged sword, but as well is it changes a lot of lives and stuff like that as well. So I think the way I see it and what it does for me is it's just something powerful, really, still.
Yeah.
And it's just growing, and it's not going to stop growing. It's
No.
not going to stop growing. It's a young genre of music that I enjoy, but it's done so much, and right now it's the biggest genre in the world, and that very little of time. Now imagine in 10, 20, 30 years where it's going to be.
Yeah, very much so. I like that. I've never really heard anybody like phrase the representation in the genre specifically being so broad, because I mean, it's, and not to say that it had like there's its origins where it comes from, like, and that should be always acknowledged and respected.
Yes.
But I think that music, as time progresses, is becoming so accessible to everybody, not just even on like a representation point in the same space, but like every country can do anything now.
Music is for humanity.
Yeah, very much so. Like, you don't have to go to a different country to hear its version of any genre anymore. It is accessible.
Right. Yes.
Like, I remember when like UK electronic music started to like actually make it to the US.
Yes.
Like, why does this feel so different?
Yes.
Now it's just like anybody from anywhere can be a part of that.
Yes, definitely. They just involve their own culture into it and just give it out to the world, really.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that.
Yes.
And now we've got one last question to go in this middle portion. And it's probably the densest question in the interview.
Cool.
But we've talked a lot about, your experience with music, the actions, the reactions, things like that.
Yeah.
But when it's just you and music one-on-one, what does music give back to you?
Oh man, music gives me therapy, gives me peace, and I'm not good at expressing myself, speaking to other people about my personal stuff or feelings or anything like that, but just one-on-one with music, I feel like I can speak and say anything to the microphone or to the lyrics or to the pen or to the pad. Yeah, definitely. It's very personal. I think it's something very personal, very deep. Ever since I have memory, I've been in love with music. Yeah, so that's why I think it's very personal for me. Yeah, I think regardless of where it takes me in life, I feel like I'm going to be involved with music for the rest of my life, literally.
Yeah. No, I love that. And actually, that resonates real well with something on a previous episode that Miss L said. Okay. And I have to keep referencing this because it hits so hard. But she said, music is the voice of the soul. And I was just like, damn.
Music is the voice of the soul. Yes.
Yeah. But I like that you were like, I will always be in love with music. I think that's the passionate side of it. Like the desire to create has to be such a strong aspect. You know what I mean? Like the need for it almost.
And it has to come naturally within. You can't force this.
No, you have to respect it. Like you do with someone you're in love with. Like you have to give it the ability to be autonomous in itself and to exist alongside of you, not something that you command and force to exist in a way for you.
That's right, because it's going to be different for everybody.
Very much so.
They're going to take it in their own way.
Very much so. But I mean, you've been doing it for a minute, so the passion clearly exists in all the right way.
It's stronger than ever.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
Hell yeah. But now let's go ahead and let's move on to some hypothetical questions.
Yeah.
And for these, sky's the limit. The questions are all made up, so the answers are allowed to be as well. But this first one's pretty straightforward. If you could work with any one person, the only requirement is they have to be alive.
Yeah.
Who would you want to work with, and how would you want to work with them?
Yeah, definitely. Oh, God. You know, it probably one of my biggest inspirations as far as music goes, I think, would be Wiz Khalifa.
Hell yeah.
Wiz Khalifa would be the artist that I would want to work with. And in many ways, I would love to create a record with him. I would love, because I also produce and make beats, and there's a lot of things, something that a lot of people don't know. I would like to produce a record for him.
Okay.
I would like to get in the weed business with him. You know, probably create a collab strain, a collab album. Just, you know, in every way possible. You know, he kind of shaped and molded my younger days, and it helped me turn into who I am to a certain extent. To tell you the truth, you know, he's been very inspirational in my life and very influential as well. But yeah, I think in every single way, possible, an opportunity that I could have to work with Wiz Khalifa, I would do it.
Oh yeah, I love that. And then subsequently, who's a local artist that you're aware of that you haven't gotten to connect with yet, but you would like to?
Yeah, definitely. There's this artist, and, you know, I don't know if he's exactly from Portland, but I know he's from Oregon. He goes by Mike Bogan.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yes, Mike Bogan. I've been listening to Mike Bogan for years. You know, I went to high school with some friends that are you know, acquaintances with him and stuff like that, and that's how I learned about his music. And since then, I've just been following all his albums that he's been dropping. You know, Casino Carpet, one of his albums, I think one of my all-time favorite albums.
Damn, I didn't realize he was in Oregon.
Yeah, but in general, yeah, for sure, yeah. Yeah, I think Mike Bogan would probably be the artist that I would want to work with the most.
Hell yeah. Everybody add him in the comments. Let's see if we can make that happen. That'd be a lot of fun.
Shout out Mike Bogan, man.
Shout out Mike
Bogan, you know, for sure. Ready to work.
And then for the next one, like I said before, sky's the limit.
Yeah.
It's pretty literal in this sense. But if you could perform anywhere in the world, and you wouldn't have to worry about crowd access or building stability or power, it was guaranteed the best lineup, guaranteed the best show, and it doesn't have to be a venue. It could be anywhere.
Yes.
Where would you want to perform?
It would be, I think, in Teotihuacan, which is where the Aztec pyramids are at. I've been there twice in my life, and it's just an unbelievable view, feeling, and energy there. If I could be somewhere halfway through the pyramid and the whole crowd standing right there, it would be just an amazing experience, probably in the middle of the night when the stars are out and the moon is out.
You could project you onto the sides of it as well.
Yes, it would be an unbelievable feeling and stuff like that for sure. And there's a section in that old pyramid structure where if you stand in a certain spot, you can speak like this, but it projects outwards. Yeah, exactly, to speak in front of thousands of people. So just imagine that experience. It would be unbelievable, really.
Damn, that would be wild.
Yes, it would be.
Hell yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And then to wrap up the hypothetical question, if you could get one more album from anybody, they could be alive, they could be dead, they could have not put out an album in 100 years, they could have put out an album yesterday.
Okay.
Who would you want an album from?
Wow, that's a tough one. You know, I think an artist that deserved more shine and more opportunity and his life was cut short was Big L. I think another album from Big L would be insane.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah, and I don't think it would matter, because I've gotten that answer a couple times now, and it's always really appreciated, because that's just such a good name in the music. Like, he really was making a lot of things happen. He never really had a miss.
No.
And I'm just curious what he would do with like hip hop now. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Like
in these times,
yeah.
what would Big L sound like in these type of modern beats, but still him being himself?
Yeah, well, that and like he would have influenced so many people. You know, you look at like KRS-One and like how influential he was, and like, currently is. And, like, a lot of the old heads that are still around, like he would have been one of those names.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Household names.
Yeah, he would have really changed. He would have kept the game very different.
Yes, we would be in yes, it would sound different. Any minor change in anything will change everything.
Yeah, well, I mean, butterfly effect for sure. But like, I feel like he wouldn't be a minor change. You know what I mean? Like his presence would have been like a heavy influence.
Definitely. Definitely up there with like mentioning Nas and mentioning, I don't know, Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. These days, he would be one of those household names.
Exactly.
Yes.
Hell yeah. Solid answer.
Thank you.
But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and start wrapping this up.
Cool.
What can we look forward to between now and the end of the year?
So, like I mentioned earlier, we got 2 albums, full projects dropping. The first one's going to be called Hustle Game Empire, collab project with Spencer Boston from AMG and Damie from the Hustle Heads. And at the end of the year, I'll be dropping Digital Trapping, which will be the album that's going to be more digital sounding. And I want to say I'm probably dropping that the very last month of the year. We have several music videos coming.
Nice.
We're working, even outside of music, we got a lot of things coming as well in the business side, but they still intertwine with what we're doing in music. We definitely have merchandise coming out. Definitely. Nice. We're going to have a winter line for sure. And we have more shows coming. A lot of shows coming for sure. That's what we're focusing on mostly this year. Merchandise and shows.
Oh, yeah. That's a solid move.
Yeah.
And for this next one, go and look straight at the camera. Tell everybody how they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me on all streaming platforms and all social medias at Archie Trillfiger. Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Apple Music, Spotify, everything. Archie Trillfiger. And you can also follow the record label, OBX Empire Records, on all streaming platforms and on all social medias as well.
Hell yeah. And then any other plugs, any other shout outs, anybody else you want to put on while you're on here?
Yeah, shout out my team. Shout out the whole OBX Empire. Shout out my brother Hernan Trillfiger. He's been there right next to me, supporting me and putting in work with me. Shout out Peso Bands. He's been putting us on in a couple shows for sure. DJ Peso Bands. We've been working with a lot of artists in town. Shout out the whole AMG team. Shout out the Hustle Heads, Peso LL. Shout out my bro MC Lobo. We just literally dropped a music video yesterday. It's out. It's called Johnny Cage, out on all streaming platforms. I created the artwork cover for that. Our homie Black Lagoon Films shot the visual for us, and we recorded at Infinity Studios. Shout out my boy Zach Drury. That's my engineer, one of the best engineers in town.
Hell yeah. Solid.
And shout out Jimmy's JamBox as well.
Thank you. With that being said, we've got one last question to go. But before we do, I'm going to steal the camera for just a second.
Good.
As always, y'all, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And one more shout out to the Brothers Apothecary. Make sure to click the link below and go check them out. Guarantee you're going to like it. And with that being said, the final question. And this is entirely up to your interpretation.
Okay.
But what is an album you feel is more on the obscure side? So it's a deep cut. It's one not a lot of people would know, but it's one you think everybody should know.
Well, like I mentioned earlier, Wiz Khalifa is one of my all-time favorite artists. He has a project he dropped back in 2007 called Prince of the City 2. It's, I think, 90% produced by a producer named Sledgren. And the whole project from beginning to end just knocks. The beats go ham. The lyrics are hard, very straightforward. And yeah, it's just a project everybody should listen to if you like real vocals, real lyrics, and strong beats.
Hell yeah.
Sure.
Hell yeah. That's a solid rack.
Yeah.
All right. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get up on out of here. Thank you so much for joining us today.
I appreciate you, Jimmy. Thank you for having us.
Hell yeah. And this has been another exciting episode of Jimmy's JamBox. I'm Jimmy.
I'm Archie Trillfiger.
And we're signing off. Later, y'all.
That's a wrap.
This is not a podcast. This is a show.
Keep jamming.